Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Talmud Lunch and Learn, where we meet here at the Torch Center every single Friday at 12 o'clock p.m. with delicious lunch served by our very dear Ed Steiner. Thank you so much. Today we're going to have something special for our Parsha Minute. We're going to have a guest rabbi say something about this week's Parsha. I want to invite Rabbi Samy Soussan to join us here to give the Torah. Please come join us.
Rabbi what?
Yeah. Let's go.
Soussan. What?
Rabbi Samy Soussan. Rabbi Samy Soussan is the director of NCSY, JSU clubs for high school students all across Houston, and it's a privilege to have him here visit us at the Torch Center. Please come sit.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everyone.
Head with it.
Thank you, Rabbi Wilby, for this wonderful opportunity. Always a pleasure to be at the Torch Center. So, just going to share brief idea on this week's Torah portion. I was mentioning to Rabbi Wilby. There are certain times in Torah where we find a repetition of different sequence of words and different ideas that are sort of like aligned with each other, and we try to see and understand how these things function together, and do they have any parallels working alongside the other ideas in the Torah. This week's Torah portion, the Torah says as follows. It's discussing all the different various laws of something called nidarim, right? Vows, when someone makes a vow. That's a very unique law that's called that. In general, when someone makes a vow, they must follow through with the vow. Now, there's something very, very special. There's a bond between a husband and wife in which the Torah says, in general, when someone makes a vow, they need to either follow through with that vow, or they must go in front of a set of judges and get that vow annulled if they're not able to accomplish the actual vow. There is a unique halakha, unique law that allows that if a wife makes a vow, then a husband, if it was a vow that was for a detrimental vow, something which is not necessarily a positive thing in the relationship or in general, so then the husband has the ability to actually annul the vow for the wife immediately if she doesn't want to do it. However, the condition is as follows: he must annul it immediately. If he does not annul it immediately and he allows the vow, he's quiet and he doesn't say anything about it, then later on he wants to come annul it, it's too late. Therefore, she must go through and carry out the vow, and otherwise go through again with a set of judges. Now, Rabbi Wolbe, is there a way to get a chumash, please? Bamidbar? So, in this context, the Torah uses certain words. And the Torah says as follows. It says, V'im hacharish lacharish la isha biyom shom'o. Thank you very much. Just going to read it inside so that making sure that I'm correct in my pronunciation. Parshat Mattos, and it says as follows: V'im biyom shemo isha. Excuse me. This is in Parshat Mattos, chapter Lamed, the 30th chapter, and this is verse 15. So it says as follows: Imacharesh yacharish la isha miyom el yom. If the husband will be silent in listening to the vow that she makes, vehekim et kol nadareha, then he's established all these vows. Hekim otam ki yacharish la. Now, v'im hafer yafer otam achar shamo. Now, if he tries to cancel them after the vows have already been established, that she's already said a vow, and he tries to now come and establish it. He tries to come and annul it, after it's been established. Then says the Torah, v'nasait avona. That's too late, and now he will be the burden of the sin. Now, what does that mean? That means now generally, if the wife does not follow through with the vow, it will be her sin, right? You make a vow, you got to follow through with it. However, in this case, if you listen to it and he didn't do anything about it, he didn't cancel it, then he's going to be the one who bears the sin. So now Rashi, the commentary, explains. He says as follows: Hu nichnas tachteha. He will be the one who represents. He's representing her spot, her position in this scenario. It means he's actually being the one who is actually following through with this with the we'll call it punishment or whatever through not carrying through with this idea. Now, what's very interesting is the usage of these words. If the husband will be silent in hearing the vow, there are only 2 times in the entire Torah that we hear this sequence of words. Right? Sometimes whenever the Torah says a double repetition of the same word, right? It's always to emphasize, right? It's like when I say really, really, it's because I'm trying to really emphasize this point, right? So when I say imacharesh yacharish, literally the word yacharesh yacharish, if the man will be silent at the moment that his wife makes a vow, then he's established a vow. Now these 2 words of this pattern of having these 2 words are only found twice in the entire Torah. Once is in this week's Torah portion, and once is in Megillat Esther, right? Now, what was the context in Megillat Esther? What happens is that Mordechai hears about the decree that's placed on the Jews, that they're about to get wiped out. And Mordechai comes to Esther and says, Esther, you need to defend us, right? You are the one who's the closest to the king, to Achashverosh, and you have to go and ultimately go and speak to the king and try to defend us and be our representative at this point. And what does Esther respond? And she says, sorry, Mordechai, there's a rule. If the king does not stick out his scepter to receive people, then ultimately I could be killed. I can't go there. I can't take that chance. So I'm just going to stand back and not do anything about this. Now, if you were Mordechai, right, and you're trying to motivate someone to go and defend you, right? Your life is on the line over here, and you're trying to motivate that person, that individual, to go and be your lawyer, be your defense attorney for the situation, and the person tells you, I don't know if I could do it, my life's in danger. What would be the proper motivating words to say? I believe the correct words would be, please, we need you, you're the only person who could do this, correct? Mm-hmm. And Mordechai says the exact opposite. He says, he says, if you will be silent at this moment, know one thing. We will be saved. The Jews are going to be saved regardless. We don't need you. We don't need you at this moment. And who knows? Maybe this is your chance to shine. But don't worry. We don't need you. And if you don't do this, then you and your father's house will ultimately get destroyed in the fall with everyone else. That's what he says. Now, think about this for a second. That doesn't sound like a very motivating speech. Right? If you're trying to motivate someone, you don't tell them, if you're quiet now, well then, you know what? You're going to get lost also. You're going to get destroyed. That doesn't sound like a motivating thing. I would say something a little bit different. However, Mordechai measured his words very carefully. And he used these same words that we find over here. Now, what does the word hacharesh mean? Literally translated. Anyone speaks Hebrew? What does hacharesh mean?
To be quiet.
To be quiet. So Sarah explains that the word hacharesh means to be silent. Now, it's not 100% accurate what you're saying, because in Hebrew there are different ways of saying the same word, right? Of saying things that sound similar, but they have those various ways of saying those words are because they have different meanings and connotations.
The root has different
It's
meanings.
cheresh. Right, which is
Cheresh could be to plow.
okay. Well, we're not talking about plowing now, but it means to.
And cheresh also to be quiet.
To be deaf.
Deaf.
Very good.
To be deaf.
Right, so the proper way to say to be quiet is shtika, right? Lishtok. Right? In fact, if I was writing the Megillah, I would have said, Mordechai would be saying, Ki im at shoteket ba'et hazot. If you're quiet at this moment and you don't come and defend us, that's what I would have said. But Mordechai uses very specific words. And the reason why he uses these words is because of this week's Torah portion. You see, these 2 different ways of saying quiet, either shtika or charisha, are completely different. Shtika, the word lishtok, can be said whether on a domem, whether it's a inanimate object, or on an animate object like humans. But it can also be said, again, like we said, on inanimate objects. For example, by Yonah, when the waters were rushing and everything was the water was really dangerous. So then the Torah tells us that the waters were shotek, right? Vayishtok hamayim. The water was quiet. Because the word shtika, it just means not to be silent physically, but it means to be relaxed and calm, right? And ultimately, that's a result of that is not talking. The word charisha, how do you say to be silent in that verb? It's le hacharish. You know what that literally means? It means le hacharish means to make yourself deaf. That's the verb. That's the proper way of explaining it. Now, that can only be said on human beings. You cannot say that on inanimate object. It's only applicable to humans. That's why there's a big difference between why the Torah uses these verbs. It can only be used on a human being. Now, why is that valuable? Why is it important for us? You see, the reason why it's important is as follows. To make yourself deaf means not that you're quiet. It means that you hear something, but you make yourself as if you didn't hear it. Right? There's a big difference between being silent because you just don't want to say anything, or because you heard something and you're making a proactive decision. I just don't want to say anything. I didn't hear anything blocking my ears. Right? It's like someone you walk by in the street, imagine, and you see someone getting beaten down on the street, and you're like, oh, I didn't say anything, and you keep on walking, right? That's ultimately, what does that mean? When a person hears something or they see something and they make it as if they didn't hear it or see it, what does that mean? That you're accepting that situation. Right? And that's a really, really important idea. Right. Well, in this case, it's charisha ki hoda'ah. But if you see something, what's the rule? See something, say something. And if ultimately a person is silent about something when they see or they hear something and they have the ability to talk, but they decide to make themselves deaf. I can't talk. I don't want to say anything. But ultimately, it's a form of acceptance to that situation. The best way to give an analogy to this is when someone asks you, what's going to be the weather tomorrow? Is it going to rain or is it not going to rain? So what are the options? Let's give the question. Is it going to rain tomorrow? Yes or no?
Yes.
Maybe.
Yes, no, and
maybe. I'll look at my iPhone.
They're very good. iPhone, right? But there are three options as to what can take place. Yes, it will rain. No, it will not rain. And maybe it'll rain. Now, what are the pragmatic differences between those things? Nothing. If it rains, it rains. If it doesn't rain, it doesn't rain. And if maybe it'll rain, okay, so it'll rain. What's the big difference? Nothing's affecting my life in that situation. However, if a person goes to Dr. A, and Dr. A says, listen, you have an extremely fatal disease, and if you do not get surgery tomorrow, God forbid, you will die because of this disease. Okay? Now, he says, okay, I'm going to go to another doctor to try it out. You go to Dr. B. The doctor says, you have nothing fatal in your life at all within your body, and if you go to a doctor and you try to get a surgery, the surgery will kill you. Now, what do you have over here? You have two completely opposing views, right? Now, right? One is saying that if you do it, you will die, and one is saying if you don't do it, ultimately you right. Well, the exact right. So they're saying exact opposites. One saying if you do the surgery, you will die, and one saying if you do the surgery, you will not die. So what do you do in that situation? Now, can you say maybe? Can a person whose life's in danger say maybe? Should I do it? You know what? I'm just not going to do it. I don't want to get involved. What does that mean? Not getting involved is ultimately saying what? That I am not doing it. Right? When it comes to matters of life and death, there's no yes, no, and maybe. It's either yes and no. And by ultimately a person standing back and saying, I don't want to talk, I don't want to say anything, I don't want to get involved in the situation. That is a person ultimately accepting the results of whatever's taking place. And therefore the Torah is telling us as follows. That imacharesh tachareshi ba'et azot. Mordechai tells Esther, he's telling her, he's saying, listen, Esther, you have to know one thing. If you make yourself deaf at this moment, and you make as if you don't hear anything, you just stand back and say, listen, I don't want to get involved in this situation. Mordechai says, Atu bet avich toved, you and your father's house will get destroyed. You know why? Because by saying, I just don't want to get involved in matters of life and death, you are ultimately saying, I'm accepting the results of what's taking place over here, and I'm okay with it. You have to make a proactive decision in life. When it comes to things that are really pragmatic in our lives, and things that are valuable and important, we can't just stand back and say, you know what, maybe not. There are some things, sometimes we talk about things that are like, people are agnostic, whether they're not sure whether they believe in God or they don't believe in God. In these matters, in these things, the Torah's approach is that you have to make a decision in life. Either say, I will do something about this, or I will not do something about this.
Proactive.
Be extremely proactive. I mean, your proactive decision could be to say no, but at least it's a real decision that we're making, as opposed to standing back and saying, yeah, Harish, I'm just going to be quiet. That's what one of the messages of this week's Torah portion. If a husband will heal his wife, what does that mean? And he's silent, he doesn't annul her vow. That means that he was okay with it. He just said, I don't want to get involved. You make your decisions. And then eventually he wants to get involved. The Torah says, by you saying, I'm just going to stand back, that was your acceptance of the situation. And you established a vow just as much. And Torah is saying, you must make a decision on these type of things. You have to say either yes or no, but don't just stand back and say, I'll be whatever happens will happen. And life moves on. Shabbat shalom.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you very much.
I want to thank Rabbi Soussan,
Very interesting.
our in-house superstar, who filled in for our Parsha Minute. Thank you so much, Rabbi. And that's one of the benefits of coming live to our Talmud Lunch and Learn. You never know what's going to happen here. There's always surprises. So, with that, thank you, my friends, very, very much. Have a lovely Shabbos. And please join us every Friday, 12 o'clock, Torch Center. Looking forward to seeing you. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.